Hi there, my name is Aaron and welcome to the 36 Chambers Consulting Podcast. Today I'm going to be talking about some of the big things that a lot of martial arts academy owners don't think about when they are running their businesses, like some of the things that they need to understand when trying to scale their academy. And just sort of looking at the way that things have been done in the past and things that need to be thought of going forwards in the future. So just a little bit about me. I am a 3rd degree black belt in Taekwondo, 1st degree black belt in freestyle, and I'm currently working on earning a black belt in Jiu-Jitsu as well. I have been practicing martial arts for 34 years of my life. Been to Thailand loads of times, currently train here in several academies in Dubai. And in terms of my work life, I have been working in marketing agencies, I've been client side. I also was an integral part of the team that grew the largest martial arts academy here in the UAE. When I left that academy, it had close to 2,000 students a week going through that. So in terms of being able to help businesses grow, in terms of being able to understand the unique challenges that martial arts academies face, I feel like that I'm probably the best person in the country at this moment in time to be able to talk about these things. I'm currently working with several other academies and we're starting to see those academies, even after like 3-4 months worth of work, to grow, to focus their position and to really start to build on the things that help businesses actually grow. So what I really want to talk about is, just some of the things that businesses or martial arts academies don't really understand, or business owners that don't really think about when they are looking to grow their academies, right? The most important thing is that martial arts and the sort of things behind martial art, the philosophies, the attitudes, all these kind of things, they usually stand quite in contrast to the way that a business needs to be run. That doesn't necessarily mean that the businesses themselves have to completely change everything that they do or what they stand for. They don't, they absolutely don't. But they do need to understand that certain things do need to be done, which can sometimes feel a bit in contrast to what they grew up with and what they knew, right? So let's take this all the way back to the way that I grew up with martial arts academies and my martial arts training, right? Most of, if not all at the time, were amateur sort of part-time things that were sort of put on from the goodness of people's hearts. I know so many people here that trained in academies in the UK, and it was all the same, right? A couple of hours a week after work, 6 p.m. onwards, that kind of thing. The academy that I trained at, the Ryman School of Taekwondo. I'd like to say hi to Steve Ryman. He was my instructor and mentor during my formative years, from the age of about 4 to 14. And this was put on by him, right? He had a regular day job. He would put this academy on out of the goodness of his own heart. Yeah, stuff had to be paid for. Sure, you needed to get your licensing and your kit and your dough box and pay for your gradings and things like that. And granted, it was a long time ago, right? But that doesn't mean that, these things didn't need to be paid for. But it was okay, like if it didn't really grow, it was okay if the academy didn't get new students in, or it just sort of stayed at a static level, because it wasn't an actual business, right? And I know so many places like that. I can think of one place that was really a full-time academy when I was training when I was much younger, and everywhere else was just amateur stuff. And I'm not saying amateur because they weren't good. I mean amateur because people weren't really making money out of this. So fast forward to a place like Dubai, and Dubai is not unique. The business of martial arts is a real thing now, but the problem with the business of martial arts is that it's still martial arts, and people don't understand how businesses need to be run. People start these academies and they think, hey, yeah, this is great. And then they get stuck in being on the mats. They have no idea about, sales processes, standard operating procedures, systems, retention strategies, marketing strategies, anything like that at all, right? The first thing that I say to my clients is you got to take off your martial arts hat and you've got to put on your business hat. And, there is going to be some uncomfortable truths about the way that things have been running at this moment in time, in relation to what you then need to do in order to grow your academy. And yeah, it's going to rub some people up the wrong way. Some members are going to leave. That's the reality of it. But change is uncomfortable. Change is difficult, and that's what happens, right? Those that are willing to change with you will change, and those that don't want to change with you, you don't really want them there anyway, right? And so what we're going to be talking about during these podcasts, during these sessions, is all manner of business related things, talking about the psychology of marketing, the physical marketing, talking about mat structure. When I say mat structure, I mean class structure. How are students being taught? What strategies are you using to keep the sessions fun and exciting? How are you running your sales? Who's leading that? At the end of the day, a business runs on sales. Sales are the lifeblood of any organization, and martial arts academies are exactly the same, right? They're not exempt from this. They need to have a regular flow of trials coming in, members being signed up, and then you need to make sure that you are retaining those members, right? I see this all the time. Probably the number one complaint outside of we need more members is I can't keep hold of my students for more than 3 months. And there's an issue with this because a lot of parents see martial arts as an after school activity thing. A lot of the parents that I've worked with over the time that I've been working in and around martial arts academies, they haven't done any exercise for like 10, 15, 20 years. They don't care about martial arts, right? They just want their children to do something that they'll enjoy, which is why stuff like football, swimming, tennis, rugby, these things are really, really popular, but people don't see them as a viable avenue outside of just being fun sports for their kids. So let's, again, go back to that conversation, right? Martial arts hat on, business hat on. There is some friction there between that, and there are some things that, you'll have to get your head around that are difficult to get your head around. In order to make sure that you're actually positioning your academy in a place that can grow. So the very first secret that I will tell you, and I've actually already said it, that many people don't understand, don't realize, don't want to hear, but it's so important, right? And this is a light bulb moment for literally every single academy owner that I work with. And that is that people don't care about martial arts, right? I know that's going to come off really badly to fellow instructors and academy owners, because we care about it, right? I've been doing martial arts for 34 years of my life. It's something that I have done for so long. It's something that is a part of my identity. I don't have black belts. I am a black belt, right? And that means that I stand by strong principles, strong morals, strong ethics. I live my life in a particular way because of the philosophies and teachings that I've been taught over my years of training, right? So I care about martial arts a lot. I think it's an invaluable thing for people to do. I think that everybody should be training in martial arts. I think that they should be part of school programs, right? And I don't care what martial art it is, but I care that there should be something like that in there, because it teaches young people, even adults, right, the value of delayed gratification, which is something that we just don't have anymore, right? If I want to buy something on Amazon, I buy it on Amazon and it's here the same day, right? No need for me to wait for anything. And yet, martial arts, because it takes such a long time to earn these things and acquire these skills and get good at these things, it takes a lot of time to do it, right? Effort, a lot of failure, a lot of disappointment, a lot of hard work. You've got to go through injuries. You get stuck with things. You know this, right? I don't need to tell you about the struggle and hardships that it takes to earn a black belt, right? So it matters to us, right? It really matters to me. I care about martial arts a lot, but you know who don't care about martial arts? Is the parents of the children that are enrolling their children into this academy, right? They simply don't, because if they did, they would already have black belts by themselves, but they don't, and that's the reality. So the number one thing that you need to get your head around at this moment in time is that people don't care about martial arts. Okay, so the question you then have to ask yourself is, well, why would they bring their children to martial arts? And this is where, you then immediately come up against that, friction between business and martial arts. And that's that you actually need to start thinking about the language that you're speaking to people. And I don't mean, physical language, English, French, German, Italian, whatever. No, I mean the marketing message, right? Everybody talks about, and everybody knows that martial arts is good for discipline. Everybody knows that, it's good for confidence. Everybody knows that, it's good for your health and fitness and, emotional management, stuff like that. People know that, right? So the question that you have to ask yourself is, well, if they know that, why isn't everybody sending their children or enrolling in martial arts? And again, it's the reality is that people don't care. So one of the key things that you need to start thinking about immediately is how you're going to talk to people about this. Why should they come to you? Why your particular brand, right? Why do you think that Gracie Jiu-Jitsu has such a well-known name? Why do you think that MMA has grown in popularity, right? It's purely because of the message and the marketing that these organizations are able to distribute. So the first thing that you need to start thinking about is, of course, what's the benefit? Why should people join you? And then why should they stay? So we're going to do other episodes in, the specifics of these sorts of things, but the really important thing to do is to start thinking about, well, what's the benefit of people being here, right? Because otherwise they just think that you are exactly the same as all the other academies, right? Why am I paying a premium to go to this place instead of this place? Is it because of the branding? Well, they don't care about the branding. They don't care if, this is an established organization that's been around for 50 years and has got hundreds of black belts, or championship winning individuals. They don't care, right? They would much rather, if all martial arts is the same, go to the one that's close to them. It's flexible and easy for them. They can come whenever they want. They can drop everybody off and pick them up later on. Glorified daycare, basically. And then, not have to pay too much with it. And this is then when you start to think about, well, here's the change of structure that you need to be. Do you want to be a place where parents and, adults come? Well, not so much adults, but adults is a different thing. We'll talk about adults a little bit later on in other podcasts and stuff. But, if you're talking about attracting parents that want to send their children there, well, why would they come to you? What is it specifically about you that is different? And the issue is that if you are the differentiator, that's a problem, right? We'll just run a little bit of numbers on this. Let's say that you are the only coach, right? I know some academies that there is only one coach. I know some academies where there are 3 or 4 coaches, but let's just say that you are the coach, that you are the owner, and you are running 4 classes a day, 6 days a week, all right? Not an unreasonable amount of classes to run, okay? Let's say from 3:30 until like 7:30, okay? So you've got your younger students or maybe some mixed groups, and then you've got some older students in the evening, maybe even adults class, okay? Now that's 4 hours a day, 6 days a week. If you are the differentiator, number one, if you're not there, classes aren't being run anyway. And number two, if you are the only person that's running those things, you're going to burn out really quickly. You're not going to be able to look at how you can actually grow the organization, do the things that you need to do, because so much of your time is being focused on being on the mats. So this comes down to the second thing that is a very difficult transition for everybody that I've worked with, right? Because a lot of these academy owners have been on the mats for as long as they've been on, and they've been teaching all the students, they've been building these relationships. Actually stepping off the mats is probably the most powerful thing that you can do, because when you're not on the mats, you're able to work on the business, not in the business. Now, this is where, again, that friction starts to happen, because we love martial arts, right? You don't want to get off the mats. You love teaching. You love being a part of it. You love sharing your wisdom. You love seeing the young people grow with you. You like helping them through these things. You want to support their journey. You want to be a part of their growth. And that's amazing, right? But if you are the only person on the mats, or you're on and off the mats on a regular basis, then you don't get the opportunity to look at the bigger picture, right? What is your brand message? What do you stand for? Who do you want to attract? How are you going to run marketing and advertising campaigns, which you absolutely must, right? There is no business on the planet, none, not even Apple, not even Google, not even Meta, Microsoft, the largest organizations in the world all spend money on marketing and advertising, okay? That is a fact of life. If you want to get people to know who you are, you've got to spend money on advertising, right? Advertising and marketing campaigns. We'll go into those again later on. There's a whole section about marketing, targeting, running ads, creating funnels, all these kind of things. But you must spend money on advertising. And if you're not doing that, then it's impossible for you to grow, right? If you're not overseeing the sales coming in, if you're not overseeing, the stuff that's going on the mats, if you're not, looking at how you can grow different organizations and different opportunities, then you're only going to stay wherever it is. And that's probably the hardest thing that academy owners have to do. They're prepared in theory to take off the martial arts hat and put on the business hat, but actually making that step away from the mats is tough, because that's where cracks in the system start to appear. Everything's being held together by the fact that you are the person that makes things run. And when you step away from that, then you suddenly realize, oh, hang on, I need to get some more instructors, or, oh, I need to make sure that my class structure is being followed, or, oh, the way that I teach classes is being done, right? So there's loads and loads of stuff that needs to be thought about. And this is a really, really big problem for academy owners, because all of a sudden they're like, oh, wow. We teach people, and ourselves have gotten used to stepping outside of your comfort zone. And stepping outside of your comfort zone as an academy owner means actually letting go of the reins, as it were, on the mats. I'm not saying let go of everything else, all the other processes and systems and things like that. But what I am saying is that you need to start moving away from being an instructor and being a business owner, okay? So when it comes down to, the things that you need to be thinking about, initially, business hat off, as I've said. Martial arts hat off, business hat on. Number 2, nobody cares about martial arts. And number 3, you've got to step off those mats, right? And that is a painful process. I'm not saying it isn't, right? And it's probably quite a scary process. I work with guys in academies in Spain. I work with 3 or 4 academies here in Dubai at the moment. The really big issue that they've all had is literally just getting off the mats. This is the way they've always done things, and people are used to holding on to the things that are working, right? But the reality is that whilst it's working, it's not growing. You're just keeping doing the same things that you've always done, right? Do the same things you've always done, get the same result you've always gotten. So it's really, really important for academy owners to start thinking about how they can sort of move away, right? So let's look at a couple of the things that we want to talk about in terms of our branding, right? I said before, listen, why do people come to you? Is it because you're cheap, convenient, they can come whenever they want? Is it because of you? Or is it because you have a proven system backed by numbers, a trackable, repeatable process that you can scale across the board, and a message that talks about the benefits that people are going to get, right? So put it this way, if you are running any sort of advertising campaigns, things like that, and this is the thing that winds me up the most, and it's not the academy's fault, it's not the owner's fault, because that's all that they know, right? Because they think that people care about martial arts. I follow so many martial arts accounts, right? And every single one of them is like, here's a technique. Take a look at, how to practice. What's this move called? Or pictures of their students working hard and furiously, on the bags or doing all these difficult techniques, and the message is always, discipline, strength, courage, self-defense. People don't care about that. We are fortunate to live in a society where threats of physical violence on a day-to-day basis are very low, right? In comparison to hundreds of years ago. Don't forget that martial arts were designed for use on the battlefield, keeping people alive on the battlefield, being able to quickly and easily teach large groups of people basic moves that would have large effectiveness in case local militias or townspeople needed to be raised very quickly, right? You don't have to go far back into history to see how quickly governments leverage large portions of their population. And what do they need to do? They need to teach them to fight, okay? It doesn't matter if you're teaching them how to use a gun, doesn't matter if you're teaching them how to use a sword or a bow and arrow or a spear or ride a horse. You need to teach them this stuff, right? And this is why martial arts were created. We don't live in that sort of society anymore, especially in a place like Dubai. It's one of the safest places in the world, right? Very, very low crime rate, very, very little potential for serious bodily harm to happen. You're not going to get threatened as you walk down the street, and even in places in the UK, right? Again, the UK can be a pretty dangerous place. You go into the wrong sort of area and, things might get a bit dicey. But the reality is that by and large, you're going to be okay, right? So when you are looking at the advertising that these people put out, it's completely the wrong message. Why do I need to learn self-defense? I don't want to learn self-defense. It looks hard. It looks tough. Might hurt myself. Or in the case of a parent, well, why does my child need to go to that? They don't need to worry about bullying, or they don't need to worry about bullying. Completely separate thing that we'll talk about later on. I don't need to worry about bullying. I don't need to worry about my child learning self-defense. I need to worry about my child getting good grades at school. I need to worry about my child being empathetic. I need to worry about my child being a good friend. I need to worry about my child, having morals and, an ethical compass that's going to guide them on their journey a little bit later on in life. I need my child to be able to learn how to manage their stress and their emotions, right? Parents don't want to see advertising for, what's this technique called? How to do an arm bar. Here's a really cool thing. There is a place for that, of course, right? But not when you're trying to attract new members to your academy. Why? Because people don't care about martial arts, right? It's such a tough thing to hear, and I'm going to say it over and over and over and over again. And as soon as you can get your head around that, you can really understand how you can utilize martial arts to focus on the problem that people want to see. So what advertising do these people run? Well, it's always, like I say, learn this technique. What's this technique called? Students working really hard, hitting bags, throwing each other around. Like, that's not an attractive thing for people to want to see. Parents don't want to see that. I think, well, that looks aggressive, that looks violent. I don't want my child to be involved in that. They might get hurt. They might not like it. Really what you're looking at is parents want something that's super accessible, right? Why do you think football, tennis, swimming is really, really popular in schools, right? And okay, I come from the UK, football, obviously one of, if not the most popular sport in there. You got rugby, you got cricket, okay, there's, other stuff as well. But the reality is that even without a cultural influence, people send their children to go and play in football because it's so easy to get involved. You don't need anything, right? You don't need any special skills. You don't need to learn how to do anything per se. At the core of it, you need a football and a couple of friends, right? And off you go. So low bar of entry. You can go and get involved in football really, really easy. In swimming, you don't even need it. You just need swimming kit, right? A pair of trunks and off you go. The school provides the swimming pool, right? You don't need anything. The level of entry is so low. The other thing is that parents want to have some kind of benefit outside of this. So, for example, swimming teams, they're very, very popular here in the Middle East. They contribute to their school grades, their academic record, as it were. We're on the swim team, did this, do that, going for these swim meets and competitions. They actively count towards other scores, when going for university things. So they want to see some sort of benefit. They want to see something that their child is going to grow with, learn lessons from, and at the end of the day, have an overall positive impact in other areas of their life. And you think, well, okay, yeah, but martial arts does all that. And it does. I'm not saying it doesn't. But what I am saying is the way that it's portrayed is completely wrong. It's not about punching and kicking, all right? It's about utilizing the lessons and the benefits that you get from practicing martial arts that is going to have an impact on their child immediately, long term, and others around them. Okay, so it's about, we're going to teach you, or rather we're going to teach your child how to stay focused for longer and improve their grades at school. We're going to teach your child how they can be more confident, earn more friends, and step outside of their comfort zone more often. We're going to teach your child how they can improve their self-discipline, how they can manage their emotions in a more positive manner, right? All of a sudden, we're not talking about martial arts because people don't care about martial arts. People care about the benefits that they get from martial arts, which are all of these things. So, my number one thing that I would say to any academy owner who's currently running advertising, is looking for a way to grow their academy, get more leads in, get more people turning up for trials and closing more of these, members, is to stop talking about martial arts and start talking about confidence, start talking about empathy, start talking about personal growth, start talking about how they can face challenges, get better grades in school, all of these kind of things, right? Because that's what's going to change the interest level immediately. Imagine that you are a parent, you're constantly being bombarded with stuff about children, about, schools, this, that, because that's the way that the algorithms work, right? The algorithms suggest to us different types of content that we've interacted with. You know this already, right? So if all of a sudden you're seeing stuff that's, focused around child behavior or, bullying in school or, confidence being in crisis, and the reality is that there is, and I'll do a whole episode on confidence, because the numbers about mental health in young people, the numbers about, overall self-esteem, the statistics for this are frightening, really, truly frightening. And it's one of those things that something needs to be done about. And, this is, your academy should be the place where it happens, right? I've seen so many students move from academy to academy, coming from this place or coming from this place. And, I often ask their parents, why did they come here? There was just too many kids. The instructor couldn't really control it. They weren't really learning anything. They were just messing around. They didn't really see that they were getting any benefit from this. Then the other thing that you have as well is that when you go to a new academy, you've got the membership fees, which might not be that high, depending on where you're going. But then you've got to buy all the kit, and people just don't want to go anywhere for something that they don't feel that they're getting value out of, right? So it's really, really important that you're positioning yourself in a way that demonstrates the innate value that your particular academy has. Now you might think, oh yeah, but now that means that I've got to change my program, or I've got to change the martial art, or I've got to water it down, and I don't want to do that. You don't. You absolutely don't. You can continue to teach the same martial arts that you always have, but you have to have an added value to this, okay? And that added value is going to be something like a progress tracker. How has my child been doing? You'd never send your child to a school that didn't have parent-teacher nights or didn't give you a report at the end of every term, right? If you didn't have reasonably regular feedback from your child's teacher, or even access to your child's teacher, you'd be like, what the hell is this? I'm not sending my child here. I don't know anything about what's going on. You certainly wouldn't send them to a school that has no strict curriculum, right? And a lot of academies that I started working with initially had no curriculum whatsoever. They were just teaching whatever they felt like when that class started. And that's a really challenging thing as well, because you're then constantly having to think of new lessons every single day for each group. No, rotating curriculum, right? Then that way you can focus on teaching rather than what to teach. If you then, let's fast forwards, let's say 6 months, we've been working together, you're no longer on the mats, you know that this week this is being taught across all of the classes, which would obviously be modified for the different age groups, and then you can actually focus on how that's being taught, right? And you can focus on giving a better experience for your members on the mats. The better experience they have, the more included they feel, the better the community feeling is for them, the more likely they're going to want to stay. The more likely that the parents are going to buy into the program and help support them, right? You need to get the buy-in from the parents so that it's not just another after-school activity. It's not just, cheap, flexible childcare. And they actually start to see and feel the benefits from your academy as well. So you don't have to change anything about what you're doing. But like I say, you do have to have progress trackers, absolutely. It's madness that academies don't think that you need to have these kind of things. You want to be able to offer accessibility to parents, for instructors, to book a time to speak with them about their child's progress. You want to have goal planners and setters, right? You want to be in a position where you're able to identify key areas for that one student to move them forwards with the goals that you have, right? Because ultimately that's why parents send their children to do anything. They want to see an improvement. A parent's favorite thing to talk about is their child. So you don't have to change anything about what you're teaching, but you do have to change the way that you're talking about it. You do have to change the way that you are framing what it is that you're doing and the results that you're getting, because people don't care about martial arts, and that's a cold, hard fact. I said this before, the sooner you understand that, the easier it's going to be for you to really get your head around the changes that you're going to need to make for your academy, for your business. And once you start to see that, you're not so involved in it, it's going to be much easier to identify the key areas that you need to work on to improve your academy's growth. So, let's just recap a couple of bits and pieces. How much time have we got here? Okay, so number one, the first key thing is that martial arts hat needs to come off and that business hat needs to come on. Number two, people don't care about martial arts. They really don't. Get this burned into your brain right now. People don't care about martial arts. And number three, you've got to get off the mats to stop working in your business and start working on your business. These are the key three takeaways, the most important things that you need to start thinking about whilst you're looking to scale your academy, okay? There is going to be so many more things that we're going to talk about. I'm going to be doing macro ideas, micro ideas. We're going to be talking about strategies. We're going to be talking about tactics. We're going to dive into the psychology of teaching. We're going to be diving into how to run a successful class. We're going to be talking about how you can adapt your curriculum to be based on age group and capability levels. I'm going to be talking to you about pricing. I'm going to be talking to you about revenue growth ideas. I'm going to be talking to you about hiring the right people. Oh man, over the years, the issues that I've had with hiring people for your academies, just wild. You would have thought that martial artists would have been really easy people to hire, right? Because we all have the same values and morals and ethics and standards, right? Not the case. Absolutely not the case. And learning how to hire the right people is going to be ultimately make or break for the growth of the academy. We're going to be talking about the administrative stuff. We're going to be talking about tools and software. We're going to be talking about how to run competitions if you've never run a competition before, right? And how to turn that into a profitable exercise that is a key retention tool. We're going to be talking about retention strategies. Okay, the retention is the #1 killer of academy growth, right? If you lose a student, you don't just lose a student, you've actually got to replace that student with 2 students because you've already lost the revenue of that 1 student. So just to stay where you are, you need to earn 1 more student back. And then if you're going to grow, then you need to earn another one on top of that. So for every 1 student you lose, you need to earn 2 more back. And that is a really, really tough task if you haven't got your retention down, okay? Retention is one of the key things that I start looking at with all of my academies almost immediately before we start fixing other areas. So, as I say, guys, I'm going to try and do this as often as I can. I'd love it to be weekly. Is it going to be weekly? I don't know. But I certainly will be putting these out as often as I can. If there is any particular questions that you would like to talk to me about, please make sure that you send me an email. You will be able to see that in the links below. If you want to follow me on my social media at 36 Chambers Consulting, then you can certainly follow me there. Links again in the bio below. Please make sure that you like and subscribe so that you can get updates whenever these come out. And thanks very much for joining me today. This is the very first one that we've done. Hopefully production will improve over time, but really ultimately I'm just interested in giving you value for these things as well. If you are an academy owner and you want to learn more about my academy growth blueprint and book a consultation with me, absolutely free. Even if we don't end up working together, you will walk away with a roadmap for you to grow your own academy and tips and steps on the things that you need to do to make things change. Then you can also find that link in the comment below. Other than that, guys, thanks very much for tuning in today. I hope that you found some value out of this. The next ones are going to be a little bit more structured and a little bit more focused. I wanted to give a overview. I was going to say a brief one, but I don't think it has been that brief. But I wanted to give an overview of what 36 Chambers Martial Arts Consulting is all about, my experience, how I can help your academy grow and turn it into not just a lifestyle business, but a business that is financially rewarding, helps impact young people, and ultimately helps to turn your organization into the thing that you hope that it would always be. Thanks again, guys. Hit that like and subscribe button, and I will be seeing you soon. GoPro, stop recording. GoPro, stop recording.